our attention to this. We all know that energy bills have hit record prices of late. So, if your neighbours offered a community solution to reduce them, the obvious answer would be yes, right? Well, a group of neighbours on Lymouth Road in Walthamstow have banded together to do just that. They're coming together to try to create a solar-powered grid linking the houses on the street and creating a sustainable shared energy source for all the residents. So why aren't more of us doing that? Well, joining me now is Hilary Powell and Daniel Edelstein, who both live on the road and join us. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Morning. Hilary, tell us about this. Talk us through this project and how will it actually work?
Well, it began in kind of lockdown when all the mutual aid groups were coming. You know, we started to meet more people on the street, and we had the idea of like, what if we could make not one house, but a whole street or a whole neighbourhood in the end into a kind of renewable power station? There's many issues with that. There's many of amazing community energy cooperatives operating around the country, but there are legislations that stop you having a kind of microgrid and selling to the neighbours. So there's still many things to sort, but the first steps we're making is kind of crowdfunding and the ability for all the houses that want it on the street to have solar panels regardless of income levels, so that we can kind of take this kind of group action together and not wait for government grants or kind of bigger state action, although we'd argue that this should be happening at scale.
And Daniel, how are the neighbours responding to this idea?
Yeah, very, very well, actually. Yeah, we've got a really good group of neighbours, all of whom understood the importance of creating renewable energy on their own homes rather than being beholden to big centralised power companies. They are literally kind of producing their own energy. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing, I think, was just about the climate. You know, the idea of having a renewable energy source that wasn't full of carbon and that was, you know, again, local to them was really appealing. So, yeah, it's been it's gone down rather well with the neighbours.
But surely it must come at a cost, Hilary. And what sort of costs are we looking at?
Well, we've recently been on our rooftop, living on the roof for 23 nights to launch it. We had a crowdfunder running that enabled us to raise £100,000 that is going to go into this solar infrastructure. So, but because we're kind of collectively, you know, we're buying in bulk, those costs that, you know, are way less than it would be for an individual household to kind of go ahead and try and get solar and retrofit measures themselves. So we're talking about a kind of collective kind of action.
I mean, it sounds a really brilliant idea, but how much money can you actually save from these solar panels, Daniel? And how long will it take for you to start seeing savings?
That's a good question. I mean, it's about like 30 to 60% of your energy, your electricity across the year, if you measure it across the year, because obviously in the darker months you're going to get less out of the solar panel. Yeah. But if you mix it in as well with insulation, which is what we're arguing that we should, then the savings can be even bigger. The real trick, I mean, I can't give you an actual number because everyone uses a different amount of energy and has different costs. But the real trick is to try and maximize the amount of energy that you use, that you're creating. So, in other words, if you've got an electric vehicle or whatever, you basically want to exhaust the amount of energy coming into your rooftop effectively, and then minimize the amount of energy that you're importing from the grid, because obviously the energy that you get from the grid is much more expensive. Once you've bought your solar panels, you're going to get that as free energy, basically. So, the trick is to try and run all your appliances and use the most energy during the daylight hours, and then you can save the maximum amount. So it really depends on your energy, the times that you're using your energy, how much you'll save. But I would say as a guide, between 40 to 60% you can expect for your electricity bill to come down.
Hilary, what was it like being up on your roofs during this crowdfunding?
Well, it came kind of out of the blue. We knew we had to raise the money for January. We were hoping to go ahead with the first install. And it was actually kind of magical. I mean, it was it's cold and it was through November and December, and we came down just the night before it snowed. Yes. But being up under the stars and having that different, I suppose the whole project has been like looking again at where you live and our own habitats and kind of imagining different and being up there you could really see that, looking across the rooftops to Canary Wharf and keeping a journal that was kind of live on the crowdfunder was really nice. It was like being a kind of artist in residence on a rooftop.
It is. I mean, you've been inspired by the American writer Ashley Dawson about this, the notion of energy democracy. Is it something you think that more people should pay attention to?
Yeah, I think that if the solutions aren't being implemented at a kind of state level, when the urgency of all these crises, then it really, I suppose, the kind of core of the project isn't really about power in terms of electricity, but power, like community power, like what we can all achieve when we come together. And it is about those questions of empowering ourselves and our communities and different ownership models going forward in this kind of big transition that's needed.
Daniel, January is the beginning of the process. I mean, how long will it take?
It shouldn't take too long. We're hoping that we could do 2 houses a day. We've got the first wave will be about 35 houses. So basic division tells me 15 days. Ish.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think you're the optimist in this. I mean, given the weather, etc. And that's my other question is, I mean, they're solar panels. What about the fact that, you're installing them in pretty much the darkest period of the year?
Well, we're making light in the winter. We're giving hope in the dark, aren't we? That's the main thing. You may not get a lot of electricity from them initially, but the electricity will begin to flow. The photons will flow when the spring weather breaks.
Well, that's good. Something to look forward to in spring. Hilary, if anyone listening thinks, maybe we should try and experiment with this, in our neighbourhood, what are the key things they need to know?
Oh, well, that's kind of our aim, is that this street is a kind of trigger for action and a template for adaptable action. So we're making a film of the whole process that will be a feature film. But along the way, everything we film and learn, we put in a membership site that you can get to from our main website, which is power.film. So we want that to be the case, that people can kind of take hints and we kind of learn together. We don't have all the answers on the street. It's kind of a test street,
Sure.
but that it kind of triggers more action everywhere.
Well, it's very inspiring. Thank you both for joining us. And thankfully, you weren't on the roof when we were speaking to you. But we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. That was Hilary Powell and Daniel Edelstein